be very good. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. Welcome, everybody, to the regular Board of Ed meeting. Just a quick housekeeping before we get started. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the school districts of the Chatham's Board of Education has posted notices in the Board Administrative offices sent to the clerks of the Chatham Borough, the Chatham Township, the Library of the Chathams, the Chatham Courier, the Daily Record, the Star Ledger, and the TAP, which is an online newspaper. Mr. DeQuilla, would you mind doing roll call?
Sure. Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes.
Mr. Arnott?
Yes.
Ms. Chicarelli? Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Cronin?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Valenti?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
8 present and counting.
Excellent. This is our part of the program. We do the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand, kneel, as you choose.
Oh, God.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to give people the option.
Or was it to do the pledge?
Politics out of politics.
I know. I just
Oh.
I can't sing the national anthem.
That's the only place it can't be.
We have a packed agenda, so I'm going to forego any president's comments and toss the baton directly over to Dr. LaSousa, the superintendent.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. I have only one item on the agenda. Before I get to that, I just want to congratulate everyone who participated in the Walk Out of the Darkness suicide prevention and suicide awareness event at Cougar Field on Saturday. From what I understand, it was a moving event, and I spoke with a couple of people who were there. I couldn't make it, but it was a great second annual event that we hope becomes a long-standing tradition.
Any feedback on the new facility? It was the first event we've held at.
I did
public.
get good feedback on the new facility.
You did? Oh,
I
great.
did. And then the only other item on my agenda is, as you can see, called the Pulse. And it's funny, I was at a meeting this morning and someone referenced Game of Thrones, and I was the only person in the room who's never seen that show. But I can say that I religiously take in the Pulse, which of course is Chatham High School's film television show program that's posted right on the front page of the CHS website. And like a good millennial, I often binge watch the Pulses because I might go a few months without seeing them, and then I'll just watch 6 in a row when I have some free time. And then invariably I end up sending to Karen or Beth or Peter or someone must watch in the email subject line, and then the link to a particular segment of the Pulse. So from time to time we bring students in and staff members to showcase the good work, the great work that they do in the schools. That's what we're doing tonight. Connor Henderson is our video production, film production, short film teacher. He has been part of the expansion of our design and technology / STEM / media curricular program at Chatham High School. He's done an absolutely magnificent job over the past 5 or 6 years of building up the Pulse and the entire program into something really truly special and something that we've gotten accolades and awards for. And he has a revolving crew, of course, every year with new students, and some students go off and they graduate and they go on to study in college. But it's just one of my favorite elements of what we're doing at Chatham High School. And of course, Mr. Groh is here and Mr. Gunas is here, but I'm going to ask Mr. Henderson to come up with his crew, his trusted production team, and they're just going to give us an overview of what they do, maybe show a couple of clips, and if you want to ask them any questions, of course, about what goes into the making of the Pulse, they're all yours.
Are you guys presenting? We just want to position ourselves. Are you guys presenting? Should we go down there? Are you just showing?
Yeah, we'll present to our audience.
Okay, I just wanted to double check. Where's all your girls?
Funny you ask. I know. They all had an obligation tonight, prior obligation.
All right.
They were absolutely invited. I know. This is not indicative of our program, and you'll see.
need them off, Peter?
Oh, yes.
Good. All right, so you're switch? Okay. All right. I want to thank the Board of Ed for hosting us tonight. My name is Connor Henderson, and I'm the video production teacher at the high school. Just want to start with some numbers, just some information about our program. Our courses are offered to sophomores, juniors, and seniors. Currently, we have 148 students enrolled in a video course at the high school, which is a large number considering the vast amount of electives that we offer at the high school. So we're very proud of that number of 148. That has doubled in the past 5 years. The gentleman that came out tonight, I'm very appreciative that they took their time. Our program is over the past 3 years, it's been that way. 50% male and 50% female. This year, the Pulse actually has a significant amount more females than males. These gentlemen had some room in their schedule, so they were able to make it. But our females in our short films class were not. And then at the bottom there, 52% retention in the program. Just kind of looking at my records going through enrollment, I found that 52% of the students that take video production, our intro course, go directly into TV production. Half may not seem like a staggering number, but it's something that I'm really proud of because just within our technology department, we offer robotics, engineering, computer science, graphic design. Then we have our business courses, our art courses. There are so many offerings for the Chatham High School students. So the fact that half choose to continue in our program and focus in this area is something that we're proud of. The students are going to do most of the talking. Just a quick overview on our program. Our intro course is video production. Their students just learn basic editing techniques, film techniques. It's a lot of collaboration, learning to work together. TV production is where we make the Pulse, and that's a full year course. Come October, it's a work environment. They are working on the show. They're working to create content for an audience. That takes us all the way through June. And these students are now enrolled in short films, which is a course available to seniors, where they are going to write and direct their own short film, typically in the 10 to 15 minute range, which is an amazing accomplishment for a high school student. And with that, program goals. I had one more. Just the goals for the program are pretty simple. I want students that are able to work independently. I was very proud last year when my short film students, a number of them said, I'm not letting you watch my film until I'm done. I'm working, I'm in my process. And I said, okay, I'm here, you're going to work during class, but they wanted to save it and kind of surprise me. The fact that they were able to work independently and knew exactly what they wanted to do, I think shows that they were prepared. We want to tell meaningful stories, and that's what we're really going to focus on. We want to tell stories that are going to impact the community in a positive way. We have a great opportunity with the many, as Dr. LaSousa said, the many people that do watch the Pulse. We have a great opportunity to tell the stories of the great people that are in our high school and community. And we take that seriously. We want to use video as a way to enhance communication and storytelling, and we want to prepare these students if they choose to go off to a film program. And we've got great reviews from the students that are currently there.
So video production is our first course in like the whole track for everything. So we spend most of our time learning how to use the cameras and then learning how to edit with Adobe Premiere Pro, which we're lucky enough to have, which is used by a lot of professional filmmakers. And so with that, there's a lot of emphasis on storytelling and shot framing and editing and everything like that.
Excuse me, do you mind if I ask you to state your names before you
Oh,
come
yeah,
speak?
sorry. I'm Mikey Bear. Then following video production is TV production, which we spend most of our time creating the Pulse. So we'll storyboard and come up with ideas for segments that we think are important. And then come the end of like, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks, we spend a full class period on a live broadcast and put everything together. And then now we're on short films, which we spend a lot of time watching and then writing and directing our own short films.
Mikey's in 12th grade, but if you guys
I'm Ryan McCarty. I'm in 12th grade. All right, so the Pulse is it's a show, and there's 3 periods that work on there's 3 classes that work on the show. So each class makes their own episode, and you have 3 weeks to create an episode. Basically, tell stories, academics, athletics. Whenever we have the play musical, we make a promo for that. We talk about different clubs. The smaller niche clubs, so they can actually get more people in them. And we do the We Are Chatham Student Teacher Spotlights. We also do sketches, and then there's how segments get made. So basically, we start at the beginning of the 3 weeks. There's you pitch your ideas. Just everyone in the class, everybody brainstorms, and you pick your idea, make sure it's doable, and then you go on to planning. So planning, that's writing questions if you're doing an interview, scheduling the interviews, or if you're doing like a sketch or an entertainment segment, you'll write a script or something. Then producing is actually when you go out and film it and do the interviews. You do this typically during class if you can make the time, but a lot of times you'll end up doing it during lunch or maybe even after school. And then finalizing it, you'll be editing and then putting the story together and making it one very enjoyable piece. So we actually have a few, at the beginning of each episode there's an intro, and so we like to do it off of popular shows and just things that we think would we could adapt to our class. So this one's we did The Office. So we have that, and then here's just one example of the swim team segment from last year as well.
Chatham is my favorite part of the day. I love coming to it, hate leaving. It's really changed everything I've thought about my life.
My goodness, I think when I walked on the pool deck the first day, it was like this barrage of energy that just came from every single swimmer. And since then, my students have gotten so much higher in terms of energy levels. Someone brings in something. There's some down days when people don't want to do anything, which I've gotten used to, but then there's other days where everyone brings something new to the table.
Honestly, it's about having a good time, but also showing the hardest that we can to make it fast as I can. Coming into this, the guys had somewhat of a legacy. The girls, obviously, as most people know, have had the legacy of the winning streak.
The amount of state championships that we've won. We've only won 2 since I've been in school, but it was before that we had 5. Yeah, it was definitely a lot. We also had our 103 winning streak, so I think just the amount of times that we won, and also just like within that time, the amount of people that kind of like came in and out of the school just shows that the depth that we have and the amount of great stories that Chatham produces.
And to be able to come back every year and try to continue that legacy and build them up.
Yes, that's just one of the segments we did on the swim team. Right.
All right, so my name is Bill Gallagher. I'm in 12th grade. So on Fridays, so there are 3 classes, and each class, they alternate weeks. So when you film your episode, you have 3 weeks to finish your next episode. So our Pulse is recorded live, which means once we start recording, we don't refilm it essentially. It's filmed using a TriCaster, so we have 3 cameras with teleprompters, and we can cut in between shots. And then on the day that we record, each Pulse member gets a job, which would be from, okay. Yeah, so from producers to anchors, teleprompter operators, and then someone writes a script for the anchors to read off. And so Mr. Henderson makes it so that the jobs rotate, and you usually don't work the same job twice.
All right, just so over the years, and a lot of these are recent, just some community projects that we've done. Again, we want to tell stories that impact the community, and every once in a while someone will reach out to me with a great project for the students. Our video production students, so if you've ever seen a district concert on our YouTube page, those are filmed by our intro students. They film one concert, and we have enough students to cover all throughout the district. We have made videos for every elective offered at the high school, just to put a video to enhance the program of studies, to actually show, not tell, what the courses are going to be about. We've helped out with CEF Trivia Night. Every year, I have 2 seniors go over to Southern Boulevard School and just document their Hope Week. They do a fantastic job over there in the week leading up to Thanksgiving. And then the video that the seniors cut together is displayed for the students at the assembly before they leave for Thanksgiving break. The Valerie Fund was a very special project that was unexpected. But I was asked that if our students could assist in creating a video or updating a video for the Valerie Center, which is a part of Morristown Medical Center. There they specialize in children with cancer, and our students were asked to update a remembrance video that they have. Every year they hold a remembrance service for the children, or the families who have lost children. Obviously that's an incredibly tough subject for anyone, let alone 17 and 18-year-olds to tackle. They went to Morristown Medical Center, conducted interviews, filmed interviews with the staff there, and enhanced the video, which was at the time just pictures, and they actually had the staff talking about how these individuals have impacted their lives. So that was a great experience for a few of our seniors. And just rounding out, CMS Week of Respect, the District Art Show, farm-to-table cooking demonstration, and we had a senior do a spotlight on the Chatham Emergency Squad. I can't remember borough or township, I apologize. But the feedback that he gave our class was that the enrollment, or the number of applications for that year after this video came out had doubled. So the work that they're doing is really making an impact. We are Chatham.
All right, my name is George Eichhardt. I am also in 12th grade. The We Are Chatham videos, this is our 3rd year doing them, and honestly, I think it's one of the best parts about the Pulse. So they highlight students in the high school that are very inspirational to us, and people that don't get the credit they deserve. So a couple examples. If you guys know Robert Kelly, he started his own landscaping business in 7th grade, so we have a video on him. And then right here we have Natasha Grieve, who is actually the first female wrestler at Chatham High School. So
it does motivate me when people question why I wrestle, because they're always like, wait, you're a girl and you wrestle, it's so weird. Because a lot of people think I can't handle it to be with the boys, but I've wrestled boys before, and it seems like they can't really handle wrestling a girl, or like really like come to terms that there's a girl on the mat. My name is Natasha Grieve. I'm a senior at Chatham High School, and I'm the first girl to wrestle at Chatham High School. I currently wrestle for Chatham High School in my club team at Excel, and I used to be a competitive swimmer at Chatham High School. My friend convinced me to join the wrestling team to be a stat girl when I was a sophomore, so that's 2 years ago. And so I was a stat girl for that year, and then a stat girl the following year. Since I wasn't swimming anymore, I decided that I was really familiar with the sport, so why not pick it up?
Well, I mean, she had support from everybody in the family when she started wrestling, so obviously I was there for her too. and it was kind of a weird transition from swimming to wrestling, but she did it really well.
Hi, I'm Charlie Thompson. I'm a 12th grader. So we've had a few grants given to the Pulse and the entire video production department. And so we got, in 2013, we got the 2 teleprompters for the Pulse studio. Before that, we only had 1. And so it wasn't as natural to really present because there was only 1 that you could look at. But now we're able to switch cameras, and we can have 2 teleprompters running at the same time. And in 2015, we got the STEM aerobotics grant for the DJI drone, which is really cool. It's a drone that can film really high quality video from really high up anywhere really, and we've used that several times, and it is really, really awesome. And then in 2017, this year, we got the grant for the GoPro Karma Strip stabilizer, which is what would you call it? Like a holder, like a handle. It's a handle that you put a GoPro on, and it instantly stabilizes it, so there's no more rocky footage of people running around. It's all smooth and it's sleek. And we used it to make a video about that was like an intro to it was like Welcome to Chatham, and me and Ryan ran around the school and we filmed everything, and it was all perfectly stabilized. It was really cool. Speaking of that video.
I'm James McCarran, and I'm a senior. So the Welcome to Chatham High School is a video showing everyone who can't usually make it to the high school what we do and what we're about. It goes from classrooms, filming different classrooms, to sporting events. We use the stabilizer, the DSLR cameras, and it's just a great way for grandparents, uncles, aunts, anyone who can't make it to the high school to just see it, and people who are arriving from different schools to see if this is a school for them.
CHS is that there are so many different opportunities for you to find. Everyone here is really dedicated and motivated to learn and do well and also have a really good time.
I think what's special about Chatham High School is probably just like everything that comes with it.
There are a million electives.
Well, that was kind of cheesy. I'd like to see more of that. You can see everything at youtube.com/Chatham High School. And I'll end with that. So one of the great things about the Pulse is that it's student-driven and it is built on flexibility. We end on that Friday of the 3rd week and record our episode and have no idea what we're going to do for the next 3 weeks. And we come in on Monday and we brainstorm, and they always come through. They come up with great ideas. I'll get emails about projects, events that are going on. So we really love the flexibility, and it takes us in unexpected directions. And I threw this in at the end, but to wrap up, I think this is a great story. Ryan over there pitched to me an idea about shapes. We have shapes in our hallway. He said, I want to do something about the shapes. And I said, I don't get it. No, come up with something else. So he came up with another idea and came back 3 weeks later and said, okay, I have a vision. These 2 detectives, they're trying to figure out what is going on with these shapes in the building. So in addition to the journalism component, we do have the entertainment component. We do a lot of game shows, question of the week, and I just want to show you a very short clip of a video that Ryan McCarty and Jimmy Coyne, who is now a freshman in college, wrote and directed and started.
It was a rainy day. The kind of rain that makes you want to stay inside and say, gee, it sure is raining. Gee, sure is raining.
Go. And the lead on the next big case.
Alan, we were in the force together for 12 years. Started out walking a beat downtown before we made the agency.
Got a tip. Led me to some new information on shapes popping up around the campus with no explanation behind them. I think it's going to be a big one.
Shapes? What do you mean, shapes?
They're circles, stars, crescents, diamonds, squares. The whole shebang.
My God. Well, who is the confidential informant?
Don't know, but he also told me about a fella by the name of Scooter. A real shade character if I've ever seen one.
All right, Alan. I say we take a look at these shapes, then go have a little chat with Scooter.
Okay. So without taking up too much time. So that was a 3 to 4 minute video that they made and became a cult classic within our class. At least we thought we were really funny and they were really funny. I don't know if anyone else did. A few months went by and Ryan said, I've got an idea, I want to do a second piece to it. So they did part 2 and everyone was just waiting for part 3, so I had to pair them up in June. And the third part was 10 minutes long, and at the end of the year, they actually directed a 20-minute long film, which no one expected, and it just stemmed from this idea of shapes. So we love the flexibility. It can really take us in any direction, depending on what presents itself. And then over the years, for our short film students, we've been accepted to a lot of different film festivals. That's that FF there on the screen. The All-American Film Festival is a pretty prestigious honor. They take thousands of submissions from students all around the country. They wanted to do, we have All-American athletes. They wanted to name All-American filmmakers. So these films were shown at AMC Theater in Times Square. We've had 4 students accepted over the past few years. Jessica Zhang for the film she directed last year in our course, and Eitan Miller, who's a senior, who this summer entered a 24-hour film competition and in 24 hours wrote, directed, edited a film, submitted it, and it made it onto here. He's a very talented young man. So very nice to see the honors, and we have students going off to great colleges, which we're very proud of. So thank you very much. We appreciate you hearing a little bit about our program, youtube.com/Chatham.
Just hang on one second, that'd be great.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a couple questions.
Willing to answer any questions you have.
Excellent, thank you. Just give us 1 second to settle that up. So, Mr. Henderson, I think 50% retention is outstanding.
Thank you.
Given the selection that particularly the seniors have, to keep 50% of the students is really quite outstanding. I have to admit, the We Are Chatham is absolutely my favorite segments. It just enlightens, it brings me to tears most of the time, and it really galvanizes the school. I think, they all start to realize what some of their students are doing and some of the teachers. It's really quite phenomenal. One of my questions to you, Mr. Henderson, is now that the middle school is having its own production studio, the students that are going to be coming up into your ranks, they will already have intro.
Absolutely.
So are you in the process of, not revamping, but maybe asking these guys, if you knew what you knew already today, how would you change the program? I'm curious, how are you setting yourself up for the future now that the middle school has a studio?
Absolutely, and that's been a 2-year process that I've been working with Miss Michelle Cohen, just about taking the topics that are covered in my intro course, because it's not that they're so abstract or difficult to comprehend, it's just we need to start with a baseline. So we're just moving that up a few years, introducing I believe it's 6th, 7th graders to the basic topics of storyboarding, telling a story, camera functions. So we're introducing middle school students to that so that we can jump right into more of the advanced techniques in my intro course. So that's a great addition to the program.
So that'll be fantastic, and I know Danielle's hiding behind the gentleman, part of a significant investment that the community and the district has made over the last 4 or 5 years. I mean,
yes.
Just in the last 4 to 5 years, we've probably invested just over $4 million between the new STEM labs, the curriculum, the staff, the equipment. We probably have not spent more money on any single program than in the STEM, and it's really coming to fruition and really has paid off. and I don't mean to tout Danielle's horn, but Danielle actually did a presentation at school board's convention. It was the showcase piece at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, time slot, nobody's going to show up. Standing room only in the 21st century classroom, and Danielle did a presentation on STEM 0 to 60, since the curriculum and part of the production was rewritten. And again, there had to be hundreds of people in the room, and they all bombarded her after, because she invited them, listen, if you want to know how I did it or how my staff did it, please come and see me. Nobody cared about budget, nobody cared about Mike's presentation, boom. They were all over Danielle, we want to get on your calendar, and this is the fruition. This, seeing what you gentlemen are doing, and the pieces are just absolutely phenomenal. So it's been a huge investment, and it has certainly paid off, and I thank the community for passing referendums, for passing second questions for additional staff, but this is the result of all of that work that the community has said, yes, we believe in you, go see what you can do with it, and this is what you guys can do with it. It's really amazing, so congratulations.
Yeah, and we appreciate all the support.
And thank you, Danielle, for helping rally it all, and congratulations on your presentation. Does anybody else have any questions? I just find it, an outstanding program.
It's awesome, and it's so funny.
Thank you.
I'm
We
a
like to
fan. I
entertain as
watch.
well. Thank you.
If I could ask you guys just one question. Mikey, I'm going to pick on you, since you're you don't mind being on the stage. If you had to, and don't look at Mr. Henderson and don't look behind you, if you had anything, if you said, gosh, this piece of equipment or this piece of technology or this piece of software would make my life just so much easier, what might that be? Or is everything just golden and you can't?
I'm not sure. I think honestly I'm the wrong person to ask. I don't think I'm familiar enough with what else is out there beyond Mr. Henderson's classroom.
Right.
Really
Good answer. That's a good answer.
Tell you what we need.
Anybody else does something jump out at you, or?
Yeah.
Charlie? Billy?
All right, let's have it.
So our TriCaster that we use to film our live shows is 9 or 10 years old.
A TriCaster?
Yeah, so it helps us cut between the 3 cameras so that we can have different views of the anchors.
Mm-hmm.
And it's running Windows Vista, which is...
Ooh, Vista. Ooh, Smithsonian's looking for that one back.
Very old, and so it's difficult to, because we're using Premiere Pro, which is one of the top video production programs, and it's hard to run on a piece of equipment that's that old. So, I mean, it still gets the job done, but it's tough to keep up.
Okay. That's interesting. Good to know. Thank you. Charlie?
There are these studio lights that hang above where we present, where we do the actual show, and I've never actually seen them working because I think they stopped working a while ago, and I would love to see them in action because I think that'd be really cool to see that.
In studio lights?
Yeah.
Do they work at the middle school? The new ones?
I don't know.
Yeah, I know, it's brand new. Well, that was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks
Thank you for coming out tonight, gentlemen.
Okay. And the question was, how many soundtracks are we editing with, and video tracks? We'll throw that in there.
Okay, so when you open up the program, it comes up with 3, but if you need to add more for any reason, you can drag more down, and I think it's infinite. I think you can just keep adding them and adding them. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Great job, guys.
Well done. And again, thank you to the community for supporting the program, the curriculum, the efforts, the capital improvements. Dr. LaSousa, did you have additional items to report?
Over to Mr. DePaul.
You don't want to follow that. Yeah, you don't want to follow that act.
Not to beat a dead horse. It's just an awesome element of the high school, and Connor has done a phenomenal job. And every time you watch, you take 10, 15 minutes, and every time I laugh out loud and I cry. You're not exaggerating.
You do.
There are moving stories, and then there are hilarious segments that they put together that the sophomore kid inside of me finds funny every time.
Jill, can I make one comment?
Certainly, please, Sal.
I actually think this program is so incredibly timely, because if you see the growth of media and 24-hour news cycles and how much time everyone is spending the last couple of years paying attention to news cycles, cable news, cable TV, cable sports, etc., this is a great skill that they're learning at a very young age, which sets them right up for internships at Bloomberg or CNBC or wherever. So I think it's kind of neat.
And they hit the ground running doing presentations. I mean, it's all about ability to talk on your feet, act on your feet, present a story, get, whether it's an elevator pitch or a 10-minute long presentation. And they're now going to be starting, again, I'm pointing at Danielle and Connor, in 6th grade as they rewrite the curriculum and they do storyboarding and they get their message across in, segments. So it's really...
Well done.
Really phenomenal. I can't wait to see what your seniors 7 years from now, Connor, are going to produce based on the 6th graders that now have TV production at the middle school.
I know, I can't wait.
That's going to be, we'll have to come back to that, but that's going to be phenomenal, and each year improving. Thank you, Dr. Sousa. Over to Mr. DeQuilla for the business administrator.
Now, unfortunately, I just have, after all of that, I just have some mundane news. But the good news is on the new construction front, both for the CMS edition, which will be more STEM classes, which will get Danielle more accolades, the Milton Avenue edition and our central office edition, all of those contracts are being awarded on tonight's agenda, 2 of them on the regular agenda and 1 on the addendum, since the bid for Milton was opened on Friday afternoon and came out of attorney and architect review this afternoon. So we're forging ahead on those. Regarding the roof work, the contractor has submitted his schedule. He is waiting for some metal, and we'll finish up on the bulk of those projects in the coming weeks. I'm still dealing with the battle of removing the solar panels, so hopefully that will happen soon, and he'll be able to finish the last piece at the high school above the auditorium. On Cougar Field, the contractor is scheduled to be completed with all of his work by Friday. We've been told that the concession stand will be included with that. The one issue we have is the serving window had to be sent back to the manufacturer because the size was not exactly on, or the brackets had to be altered. So we're supposed to have that so that the concession stand will be up and running for Sunday's football game. All the new equipment is scheduled to be delivered on Thursday and then put into place. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that everything falls into place, and other than punch list, Cougar Field will be all done.
And I was going to ask about the punch list. For example, the fences, the parking lot. I know it's not Thursday.
Well, all the work will get done, and the contractor will say, hey, I'm done, and the architect and district reps will go through with the fine-tooth comb, and I'm sure we will come up with a few items that will need to be corrected, as is the case with most projects that we have anywhere, especially in the district. And I don't know, from the homeowner end, it seems the contractor may do 99.9% of the work he's required, but always misses one little factor.
Sure. But
we'll get that knocked out.
Okay, and the fencing is a bit of a concern. They didn't finish the fencing, the corner.
It's all to be
Okay.
done. When John Cataldo was there talking to the site supervisor, he said the fence guy was slated to come tomorrow morning and then should be able to finish up all of the remaining fence that needs to be installed.
Okay, and will there be fencing around the both home and away bleachers?
That is something that was not in the contract, but that will be definitely on the home bleachers. John will hire our fence vendor to put up a fence so that you cannot get underneath the bleachers. It will be kind of a fence if you're walking from the concession stand to the bleachers, there'll be a fence so you can't get behind the bleachers, and from the scoreboard to the concession stand, another fence so you can't go underneath. So the fence will run from the front of the bleachers all the way to the fence behind the bleachers, so that'll be carted off so you can't get underneath. And we will also fence around the visitor bleachers to keep anybody out.
Okay.
That'll be a safety issue and an access issue.
Okay.
The only other item I have is on the Washington playground. The manufacturer, the installer, John Cataldo and I met last week. We've resolved the last bit of issues. They're waiting for one more mark out, which is they have to provide marks in the ground of all the underground utilities, so then the installation can begin. So we're expecting that should begin within the next 7 to 10 days. And then finally, the kids at Washington will be able to reap the benefits of the new playground that the PTO worked so hard to fund.
Excellent. And a quick question, since this addendum is in our folder, the attorneys approved the bid?
Yes.
They reviewed it and approved it? And how much further does the sound going to lag at Cougar, the sound system?
We're just waiting for the vendor. The purchase orders have been issued, and the vendor obviously supplied a temporary system for the first football game. Unfortunately, for next Sunday, we'll be using the temporary system again. We're waiting on the vendor to make sure he orders all the parts and then a company to come install. So we're hopeful for Cougar weekend. I'll have an update the next meeting. We'll send one to the board. I don't remember if the 16th is before or after Cougar weekend.
It's after.
So I will update Mike, and he'll put it in his board notes next week or the weekend.
I mean, since it's so close, is there any room to push them to, I mean, the 16th, the 13th?
We've been leaning on him, and John's been contacting him weekly as to the update and what can you give me? Can you give me partially the equipment or anything that we can get, which will be an improvement over the temporary.
Okay.
And fortunately, whatever we have is an improvement over the former sound system, but not perfect to what we ultimately will have as the final product. But we're working at it.
Okay. And everything has, so far, I mean, the press box looks great, the scoreboard looks great, thank you again to the boosters. Any issues so far, now that it's being used, the tires are being kicked a little bit?
None as of yet.
Okay. The parking, again, the parking has to be improved. Again, poles are going to be drilled in, they're going to be stationary, so when people hit them, they're not going to move.
I can't promise you that, depending on how hard they hit them, but they are meant to be done to work stationary and lines in them and markers in them to be as guidelines.
And affixed into the ground, correct?
They will be staked. Yes.
Staked into the ground? Alrighty. Well, we'll see what Friday brings. It seems like they've got quite a punch list from what I've seen. Does anybody else have any additional questions on the bid openings, the new additions? Thank you, guys. Bye, Daniel. Bye, Connor. Thank you. Any additional questions? No? Seeing none? Nope. Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Tuquillo.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Moving over to committee reports. Personnel has not met. November 1st is our next meeting. So jumping right to curriculum, Ms. Clark.
Curriculum met just prior to this meeting, to this evening. We had a presentation from Julie Patterson about the health and physical education program, grade K through 12, as they relate to the standards and some of the issues that we see arising here at Chatham, especially at our high school. Ms. Chase gave us a report on the testing results for the 2016-17 school year, which will be presented at the next board meeting for the general public, so we're able to see the trends and where our students are performing. And Dr. LaSousa shared with us a draft of the guiding principles to update. They haven't been updated since 2012, and so we had a chance to kind of review those and take a look and see how they match what our philosophy currently is here in Chatham.
Excellent. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Clark or Ms. Chase on curriculum items?
And our next meeting is the
November 6th.
November
It's a
6th.
public meeting.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, public meeting for curriculum, November 6th, happens to be my birthday. But I know, folks, if you can put that on your calendar, you know, people will say you do the committee meetings in closed sessions, but we actually have the most number of public meetings around curriculum and finance, so this is the first of the year, so please come out if you have questions. People say, you know, the board doesn't ask input. We do. We have 6 or 8 curriculum meetings, and this counted, like Mr. Henderson presenting technology. That's a presentation about curriculum, so you know, all of these count. So the next public one will be November 6th. Thank you, Ms. Clark.
And feel free to bring the President of the Board of Education presents.
Cupcakes. We'll have cupcakes, snacks.
Do I get excused since it's my birthday? No. Okay. Mr. Connors is the senior member of the board, so he gets to drive that. Moving over to finance and facilities, Mr. Gilfillan.
Yes, we met last week. Pete already spoke to most of what we discussed in that meeting in terms of all the different projects and bids. As he did state, when you would go through the business section and the finance section of today's agenda, you will be voting on the multiples of these bids, finally moving all those pieces of the referendum forward. Another thing that's going to be on the agenda today, it's quite long, it will be what we spoke to in the past, which is that new healthcare program, which is the SHIF that we call it, which is the Schools Health Insurance Fund. As we stated and as we spoke to in the past, this was all about trying to get a better grip in terms of our long-term healthcare costs and bringing them under control. We've had at least 5 years of well above double-digit healthcare increases. If we actually stayed in the trend that we are this year and we just renewed our policy, we were looking at somewhere around a 22% healthcare increase, which is unsustainable and a long-term negative to the financials of the district due to the fact that from a perspective of taxation and waivers in terms of how we are allowed to increase property taxes, we can only use bank, in essence, quote unquote, bank up to the state healthcare increase. So that's, I believe, 13.4% this year. So if we had to go through on a 22% tax increase, we could only waive through up to 13.4%, and then we would have to find another way to make up for those dollars between 13.4 and 22, which of course comes either out of operating or, we have the second question there? So with the fact we can't second question that healthcare increase, that would come straight out of operating. So we needed to be in a position whereby we could come up with a way that we could get a better grip in terms of our long-term healthcare costs. As we know, in my opinion, our biggest issue is we're a small district at 400 employees, and thus we don't have great buying power. So Mike and Pete were tasked with going out and finding a way, looking for an organization, looking for ways to bring districts together whereby we could improve our purchasing power, and as I say again and again, getting a better longer-term grip over our healthcare costs. So we will be on that today to approve moving towards that. The one thing that was also asked of them was to make sure it was as seamless and painless for our employees in terms of moving over from the current healthcare plan to the new healthcare plan, which they were able to achieve through this. So we will be voting on that as well today. You'll see that I think there's 3 different pieces of that are on the agenda, which I'm sure you guys have all read. And then last but not least, we discussed another energy conservation program. I think it's about the 58th one since I've been here, and continued ways to look at potential energy savings within the school district. It is a guarantee to have a cost neutral to us, or savings potentially in each of the 5 years of the contract period. So miraculously, and I don't know how, but there is continued opportunities for us to lower our energy costs. With the fact we've gone through so many of them to date, I'm actually kind of surprised, but let's see what we can do. We have another meeting probably sometime in October.
Matt, just a quick question. The 22% is obviously completely unsustainable without having to cut significant program and head cut. Moving to the fund, this type of health fund, does that give us long range, stability is not a great word, but at least predictability?
We have pretty much a guaranteed visibility for 2 years, and then there is an adjustment period at that point based upon what our spend trend is. So we don't know. I mean, we can only, with this shift, we have absolute visibility of 2 years, and at that point, they're going to have to decide whether or not this Chatham stays within this program. Within the program.
So we're looking at 2 years.
If we're up 22% within that program, whereby it's a quote-unquote shared expense for those 2 years, I'd imagine that they will try to find a way to get us out.
And why can't that be a second question? Not that I'm proposing it, I'm just from a statute point of view.
Because if
second questions are for...
If the second question fails, the district can't spend the money on it in that year.
Understood.
So if the question happened to fail, we need to say, okay, we're not offering that, or we're not going to fund that. And we obviously, with health benefits, we have to fund health benefits.
Sure. So that's the prohibiting...
That's the prohibiting factor.
Okay.
And then we're in trouble.
Right. But again, 22% is unsustainable, completely unsustainable.
14% is unsustainable.
Right. 22 is unthinkable, 14 is unsustainable. Does anybody have any questions for Matt? He's always the bearer of such great news.
Thank you for doing all that work.
I know. It was a ton of legwork, and we've been talking about it for months and years. Is everybody good with I know we've been covering it. This is kind of the culmination of a lot of that. Thanks again, Matt. Appreciate that. Moving over to policy and planning, Mr. Connors.
Yes, we met on September 20th, discussed a number of topics, one of which dealt with a concern that has arisen with regard to the distribution of the district directory among the various PTOs, boosters, CEF, and we're trying to find some consistency and fairness so it could be used among the various groups that have really supported the school system, but we're also trying to ensure and avoid misuse. In the past, there have been some questionable use of the directory sending out information. We're trying to get a handle on that and better provide and help get the information that we think is appropriate out to the students and the families. We're also going to be voting on 3 policies. I want to bring your attention to one in particular, policy regulation, which is 5533. Deals with a rising concern among the students, and quite frankly, it was something I feel remiss I didn't know that much about until recently. It's called vaping, and it is using, I think the primary use and expected use is to use for cigarettes. Unfortunately, it's illegal. Well, fortunately, it's illegal for students to be smoking and using the vaping, but what we're finding out now is that it's being misused and you could put in the students are putting in illegal substances into that. And so we've revised the particular regulation policy. Again, that's 5533, and I'm going to strongly endorse and recommend that the board overwhelmingly approve that. We're revising that. That's the smoking policy. We're putting some teeth behind it, and particularly with regard to vaping. And again, I encourage and urge everyone here to look at it. And in particular, in light of the concerns we have regarding the misuse and, quite frankly, the well-being of our students, we're putting in some teeth with regard to the punishments. If a student, it's in the policy, but I want to make it loud and clear to everybody, if a student is found on campus vaping, there will be a Saturday detention. The parents will be told about the use of the vaping, and they will also be advised as to, not that their child is doing it, but as to the growing risk of the misuse as to the vaping. If a child is found for the second time, he or she will be given a Saturday detention, and at that point, the child will be instructed through the parents to go to a local, it's an approved facility, for a urine test. If they choose not to go with the urine test, that's their prerogative, but that will be viewed as a failed test. We are trying to express our concerns with regard to this vaping and the misuse. It is a problem in this district. If you don't know about it, parents, learn about it. This is a very, very serious issue, and the district takes it very seriously. So we can only do so much. Parents have to engage as well. And don't think that little Johnny or little Jane isn't doing it, because they are. So please, support us and follow through with us in that program. Next, on a happier note, the next policy meeting will be scheduled for...
Soon.
Segue?
Very soon.
Very soon.
Yeah.
And I'll have more good news.
Very, very soon. Rich, though, if I can ask a follow-up question to Dr. LaSousa on, while you're very articulate and shouted it from the rooftops, how do we get the information that Rich just spelled out on the escalation and the tiered out to the parents? I know it's in the handbook, but how do we explicitly get this change so that everybody's aware of it out to the parents?
Mr. Groh and/or I will be following up in writing to parents via email.
Okay, so...
And Mr. Groh continues to beat the drum with students and his team over at the high school. They beat the drum with the students in class meetings and in announcements and postings and so forth.
And you know, football games in the stands, that's all school property, that's a school event, it all counts. It's not just in the bathroom, it's not in the halls, it's on any school property.
And at any school function.
So I think we just need to shout that from the rooftop and make it very clear, not in a 4-page email, but very succinct penalties, ramifications. Link to the handbook would be great.
And I think the parents need to be educated as well as to the concerns, because quite frankly, I was completely ignorant of it. I was thinking, okay, vaping, it sounds kind of healthy, so I guess it's not as bad. But it's not. It does have the same addictive qualities as smoking. And again, it is very easy to be misused. And quite frankly, it's a dangerous topic, folks. So educate yourself, educate your friends. You're the first line of defense.
I worked on policy on this as well. I wasn't at our last meeting, but I think we've been hearing so much from the high school. They are inundated with issues relating to this. It's preventing administrators and people at the high school from doing what they need to be doing in other capacities. So I think it's upon us. This issue has become that significant. I think also Lisa Latterulo sent something out that was really informative last year, and I think perhaps if this policy comes through and we're putting it out there, I think it would be a good time to resend that information out to all parents at the high school and even at the middle school. I think, we can't, it is a gateway drug. I think we need to be upfront and put the information in people's hands. A lot of times parents don't even know what it is. They think it's like a little, a USB drive for a computer, and kids are shoving them in their pockets. And so I think it would be a great time. There's already a great informative presentation and information. Let's just resend that and get it back out there in conjunction with the new policy and kind of inform as many people as we can.
Yep. Lisa was at the first PTO meeting. She and Alex Emmer are doing a periodic newsletter of sorts for parents. I plan to invite her to one of our board meetings once we get through the required presentations of the fall, and we'll keep on moving the ball down the field.
This will not require any more work on anyone's part. It'll
Right.
just be a resend.
But to Rich's point, it has to be a full court press, both from the family side, the community side, as well as the district side. We have to do this together. This will not succeed if one side tries to do it and the other side doesn't support. So together we need to get in front of this and make sure the students know that, one, it's illegal, and two, there's ramifications to it, health-wise as well as disciplinary action. Excellent. Mr. Connors?
That's it.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Moving on to the liaison reports. Back to you, Mr. Connors, for the borough.
Nothing to report on behalf of the borough.
Fantastic. Thank you. Ms. Clark?
Other than what Dr. Liv Sousa reported about the walk this weekend, nothing to report as related to the schools.
Congratulations on the walk in the township. Fantastic. Athletic boosters, Mr. Connors?
Nothing to report. The boosters haven't met since our latest meeting. They will be meeting on October 3rd. Yes, this is my soapbox presentation. Please, people, support the Chatham Athletic Boosters, and quite frankly, I'd be extremely remiss if I didn't also echo the desire. You have to continue your support, please, with the Chatham Education Foundation as well as the Chatham Performing Arts. We would not be able to do the things that we're doing at the district level and all across without the help of the various boosters. The Chatham Education Foundation has contributed over $1 million. That means you people have contributed over $1 million to, and we are able to provide services. And the performing arts. The reason why we can have something as similar that you saw earlier today is because these other groups are giving us money and help us. So please, I don't mean to talk to Lotta and Sal, but those are critical components to this whole system of education that we provide. It is imperative that we all continue to cooperate, and that's just money. If you can't afford it because then give time. Show up at a basketball game, sell tickets, show up at one of the fundraisers for the performing arts, show up at the Chatham Athletic, join the Chatham Education Foundation. Please, we cannot continue to provide the education that we're providing without them, and they can't provide us without you. So please, help us. Nothing else.
Thank you, Rich. Moving over to performing arts boosters, Mr. Arnott.
Rich, thank you for that fantastic segue. We'll start off, let's get a little bit happy. The marching band is off to a terrific start to their competitive season with 2 second-place finishes in competitions at Scotch Plains and Roxbury over the past 2 weekends. I was there at both. At the Roxbury competition Saturday night, the Cougars also placed first for visual effect. And they did this under stress because the sound system went out to start. They had to wait in the heat on the field. The field was, 10 degrees warmer than everywhere else around. Quite frankly, the music is patriotic. The choreography is fantastic. And the musicianship is wonderful. It's just visually a beautiful, beautiful show. You will see this at the football games, and I'm excited for the marching band. They're doing a marvelous job. I also want to talk about the Chatham High School fall production of Midsummer Night's Dream. They're well into the rehearsal process, and the middle school production of Willy Wonka Jr. has begun its auditions for the January 18th through the 20th production at the Chatham Middle School. Finally, I want to remind everyone that the next Performing Arts Boosters meeting is Wednesday, October 4th, 7 p.m. in the Lafayette Teachers Room. Please come out. I thank Rich for his heartfelt plea so that we support all of the various foundations. But please come out, see what it's about, join the other parents. There's a great camaraderie. That's all.
Thank you. Sal, do you know if the marching band is performing this Sunday at the football game, or are they in competition?
They're in competition this Saturday.
Okay, but Sunday they may be available?
I think they'll be available. I'll find out.
Okay, oh, that'd be great, thank you. Moving over to Ms. Kenny for the Chatham Education Foundation.
Yes. Speaking of all the good work that they've done, they've closed out their fiscal year with over $210,000 in gross receipts, which is their highest level in history, and up from 38% from last fiscal year. They're working hard to set another a record year for 2017-2018. CEF has or will attend each of the back-to-school nights to highlight the grants that were awarded last year and showcase the grant trees from prior years. They'll also be attending the teachers' meetings in October to encourage grant submissions and to answer any questions from the teachers and the administrators. Feedback on the innovative classroom furniture continues to be overwhelmingly positive from both the students and the teachers, and they're looking for another exciting grant cycle, which will open up in October. Trivia night is November 4th, so mark your calendars, everybody, and it looks like it will be the hottest ticket in town. Registration will be open on October 5th, and everyone should look for emails from CEF and like the Facebook page to make sure that they get the specific registration details. The details are important because time is always of the essence when trying to lock in a table. Sally Allen, who's here tonight, is the new grants chair, and if you'd like to add anything, feel free. But other than that,
excellent. Thank you, Ms. Kenny. We're going to move on to liaison. Ms. Allen, if you would just hold off if you're going to say something on the, thank you. And then recreation, Mr. Gilfillan?
Nothing to report.
I don't know, Nonamaker was a lot busier when he had that role.
You cut down meetings by like 60%.
I don't know, you get on board and they cancel the meetings?
You need issues.
PTO District Cabinet, Ms. Cronin?
Don't have anything to report?
We meet next week.
The 4th, another 4th?
Wednesday of next week, whatever date that is.
That's still, that's the end of December.
Okay, so next.
Okay. Is it the 4th already?
Mm-hmm.
It is the 4th. Wow.
All right, so more to follow at the next meeting. Moving along, I'd like to make a motion to pass the September 11th public and private session meetings minutes.
I'll second.
Peter, who needs to abstain?
Mr. Connors and Ms. Cronin.
Okay, very good. Would you mind doing a roll call?
Minutes from 9/11, both public and closed sessions. Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Abstain.
Ms. Cronin?
Abstain.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Valenti?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Passed 6-0-2.
Excellent, very good. Thank you very much. I know it was a bit coming, but we have our first opportunity for a public commentary. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and signing in. Microphone is here on my right, your left side of the room. Sally, I'm sorry if I cut you off if you want to say something. No, you're good? Okay. If something inspires you, feel free to jump up.
Well, I'll just mention that CEF revised some of their grant procedures, and they've streamlined some of the deadlines and also made some adjustments to the general categories of grants that I think will probably end up leading to higher caliber, higher quality grants with maybe bigger impact for the district. So we're excited about some of the changes that they made, and I've already spoken with a principal or two about some ideas for grants, especially around the user or the student-centered types of furniture that we're trying to infuse throughout our classroom. So I just wanted to thank Ms. Allen and the CEF because I think the changes are welcome on our end.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms.
Hi.
Devlin?
Jane Devlin, Chatham Township. I just wanted to ask the policy committee, Mr. Connors, I don't know if I understood correctly. Did you say there were 3 policies, but tonight you wanted to highlight or showcase the very important vaping one? But were there 2 other policies, different ones, and could you talk about those a little bit?
One is policy 8505, deals with local wellness, fairness, nutrition, deals with... Raise your mic, please. Sorry about that. Thank you. There are two other policies. One is dealing with policy 8505, local wellness policy. Nutrition deals with food standards. That's a mandatory policy.
Okay.
There's another one dealing with alcohol, anabolic steroids, another drug use. It's again mandatory. It's another policy. If Mike or Peter want to just kind of put some meat on the bones on
Well, we
this
just added one definition in there to support the vaping changes that we were making.
Okay, great. Thank you for the update.
Thank you. Does anybody else have a comment? Mr. Groh? Nice to see you again.
I'm kind of all dressed up for us.
What's it been, about 4 hours since I've seen you?
Yes, I do want to just publicly thank the board for their support in the revision of the vaping policy. I've been in the district since 2004, and one of the things that I've been very proud about within our high school is that we haven't had students who have really brought smoking cigarettes or smoking other things into our building, other than on a few occasions here and there. One of the things that really brought to light the vaping was the amount of students last year, towards the end of the year, that brought to our attention what was going on in the bathrooms and in sometimes classrooms. And when it's reported, we're able to handle it. The challenge has been, just as it is with these cigarettes, is that it doesn't, you don't smell it and you don't necessarily see it, or the vape is gone in a minute. We also are trying to catch up with technology in identifying what it is that, what is a vape and what is a USB drive, or whatever the case may be. So there have been a number of challenges in our way. One of the reasons why, as I just said, we're looking to get a little bit more strict on this is that it is affecting the other students in the building, and that's not okay. We did address this, the vaping policy, and the fact that we are going to be more aggressive and more attentive to it with each of the class meetings back on September 7th. So they're fully aware that there is going to be an adjustment to our policy, and they're fully aware that they will have communication from me to their parents tomorrow regarding our expectations. So we are going to be more vigilant around the building and make sure that we are open to having students report their concerns, and hopefully, maintaining the safe and secure and comfortable building that the high school has been over time. But we've had a very respectful student body over the course of my 13 years here, and we expect the same moving forward, that they are not going to bring things into our building that shouldn't be there, and certainly and hopefully make the decision to not partake in that kind of behavior and conduct outside the building as well. So again, I just want to support you, or thank you for your support as we try to maintain and stay abreast of what's current for high schoolers nowadays.
And just curious, Mr. Groh, are you finding, and for those in the viewing audience that don't know, Mr. Groh is the principal at the high school. I know everybody in the room knows that, but some of the community that's watching the film may not be familiar. They don't have kids in the school, or they don't have kids in the school yet.
Right.
Are you finding that it's cross genders? It's not one gender or the other? It's not one age group or another?
It's not. It's not. It's not like they graduate and all of a sudden juniors and seniors are doing this. We are finding it across the board. They are coming from middle school age and taking those risks of getting caught. Again, it's not a simple thing to follow up with, but time and time again, we have kids or people are providing us information about what's going on in the building, things that we're not necessarily seeing.
Okay.
But it is something that, not that it was ever ignored, it's just because it's difficult to identify, kids are, I think, a little bit more brazen than they have been in the past, and again, starting to not show the respect to our building and the community that they have in the past as well.
Okay. So
And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Groh, but it's all kinds of students, including student athletes who have been caught with this on the way to games on a school bus.
It's across the board. It really is not, and it doesn't mean it's overwhelming. I won't sit here and say that 80% of our students across the board are doing it, but it's not, there's no stereotype or stereotypical student, that's doing this. It is across the board that we're finding, ninth grade girls and boys and senior athletes and theater kids and whomever else it might be.
Okay.
Is the percentage of use growing, or is it flat, or is it declining?
I would say that if we knew everybody that was doing it, I would say that it's probably growing in our building. I think when, again, 10 years ago, when students were smoking cigarettes or whatever it was,
It was an easy find.
it was an easy find, and they were still doing it, they just weren't doing it in the building. I think, again, they're crossing the line of bringing it into the building and making it, it's affecting others who are not looking for it in a negative way in the school, and that's a negative effect to the whole, educational process that we rely on so much at the high school.
I think what would also be important is relaying that message to the parent as well.
Mhm.
When you're explaining the Saturday detention, just explaining to them, as I think other people on the board have mentioned, much more articulate than I, that it is a gateway drug.
Mhm.
It is used for something else. You don't. So, again, the more the parents are informed, the better equipped they will be to be on the lookout and to deal with it. So I
Right.
think that'll be helpful as well.
As Dr. Lususa said too, Lisa Lattarulo, our student assistance counselor, she will be sending out quarterly newsletters that will provide updated information on either statistics or new trends that are out there. But I also explained at our PTO meeting back 2 weeks ago, anytime anything new comes to our attention, whether it's brought to our attention by the news or by students or by whomever, if it's something we don't think parents are going to be aware of unless we tell them, I will be sending something out formally from me to our every parent in our building, kind of getting them up to speed so that when they're looking at something, they know it may not be what it is they're looking at.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for speaking.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Groh.
Good evening, Bill Heap, Chatham Borough.
Hello, Mr. Heath.
I was away for the summer meetings. I apologize for letting my day job get in the way of my hobby. And I thought it was a terrific video presentation tonight. And I was about to fall asleep for the rest of the meeting until I heard about 22% increases in health care. This is unsustainable. It's a can that has been kicked down the road for a long, long time. And I do think that this is something that the board has to tackle head on. With all due respect to these two gentlemen, their health care benefits are involved, so they have a conflict of interest. So you've got to really take the lead on this, and 22% is unsustainable. As long as there are health care plans that have close to first dollar coverage, you can negotiate all you want. It's not going to do you any good. They will write plans, but you're going to pay for them, and your costs will be based on your rating experience. And it's at the point where it's really not fair to the rest of the community. Most of us have put up over the last 4 or 5 years with increasing deductibles, increasing copays, and higher premiums, and as well as being channeled into narrower corridors of coverage with regard to hospitals and doctors and all of that kind of thing. So I do think it's time, and I would encourage you to tackle it head on.
Thank you, Mr. Heath. Thank you very much. Welcome back. Yeah, I mean, again, we're planning for the worst case scenarios. I mean, but Mr. Heap, it is probably one of the single topics that we spend the most amount of time on, knowing that those numbers are just simply not sustainable. They can't be passed down to the public. They can't be cut from our budget. We have to come up with something. Of course, we're also waiting to see what happens in January on some of those items, but with the new governor race. So more to follow. But thank you, Mr. Heap. I appreciate your attention to that. Okay, so moving, any additional public commentary? If somebody's inspired, we have another opportunity as soon as we go through the regular agenda, so stand by. So moving right over to action items, we're going to start with personnel. Ms. Ciccarelli is not here, so I'm going to move action items A1 through A19. Ms. Grant, there's no addendum, correct? Excellent, thank you. Love it.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Connors. Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Lususa or Ms. Grant? Remember, she loves questions. Nothing more than a question. That would force her to the microphone to answer the question. And again, these are all posted. The agendas are posted Friday afternoon, so we've had a chance to look at them over the weekend. Hopefully the public has as well. If there's no additional questions for Ms. Grant? Mr. DeQuilla, would you mind?
Agenda items A1 through A19. Mr. Gilpin.
Yes.
Mr. Arnott.
Yes.
Ms. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Connors.
Yes.
Ms. Cronin.
Yes.
Ms. Kenny.
Yes.
Mr. Valenti.
Yes.
And Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Agenda items passed 8-0.
Very good, thank you. Moving on to finance and facilities, Mr. Gilfillan.
Yes, I'd like to move action items B1 through 17 on your regular agenda and B18 on the addendum.
Second.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Gilfillan or Mr. DeQuilla? Or Dr. LaSusa? There's no donations? No additional questions? Very good. Mr. DeQuilla, would you mind?
Agenda items A1 through 18 to
B1.
B1 through B18, including the addendum of B18. Mr. Gilpin.
Yes.
Mr. Arnott.
Yes.
Ms. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Connors.
Yes.
Ms. Cronin.
Yes.
Ms. Kenny.
Yes.
Mr. Valenti.
Yes.
And Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Agenda items passed 8-0.
Excellent. Curriculum, Ms. Clark?
I move curriculum items C1 and 2.
Both of them. Does any...
Second.
More than.
Did you second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Well, you can't have any questions on
No
these.
questions.
So, moving right along. If you have any questions, see Dr. LaSusa after. Mr. DeQuilla, would you mind?
Sure, agenda items C1 and C2. Mr. Gilpin.
Yes.
Mr. Arnott.
Yes.
Ms. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Connors.
Yes.
Ms. Cronin.
Yes.
Ms. Kenny.
Yes.
Mr. Valenti.
Yes.
And Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Agenda items passed 8-0.
Okay. Bring us home, Mr. Connors, with policy.
I'd like to move policy D1, please.
I'll second.
Does anybody have any additional questions for Mr. Connors on the policy and communication plan? I think we covered that fairly well. Again, thank you, Mr. Grove, for speaking on that. No additional questions? Mr.
Agenda
DeQuilla?
item
Thank you.
B1. Mr. Gilpin.
Yes.
Mr. Arnott.
Yes.
Ms. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Connors.
Yes.
Ms. Cronin.
Yes.
Ms. Kenny.
Yes.
Mr. Valenti.
Yes.
And Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Agenda items passed 8-0.
We have now our opportunity for board business. Does anybody have any additional board business? I just have a question, Mr. DeQuilla. Sorry, I'm back on the punch list. If that comes out, when that punch list comes out, could you send that to Matt and I?
Sure.
Just want to make sure that their punch list agrees with my anal retentive punch list.
Not a problem.
Okay. And you said by Friday they'll be done?
That is the target, but that was released last week, yes.
Okay.
Jill, one thing. I got to see some of the facilities on Friday, and I was mentioning to Dr. LaSusa, since these are in so many different various phases of completion, I think that when certain things are done, whether it's Cougar Field or some of facilities at the middle school, that we schedule some open house time for the public to come and have a chance when our students are not in the building, but to see where their tax dollars are going. I was amazed just even the configuration of the classrooms at the middle school, how it's afforded so much space in our music and art wing for our students that where they're going to be able to do the filming for the middle school. It's awesome. And it's I think, I made time to get over there, and I think people really should go and see where their money's going. Not that anyone needs a special invitation to Cougar Field, it's but if there was maybe something put out there where the board could invite people to come and see when it's completed.
Okay. Yeah, the middle school edition, or the
Just even just the way it just is laid out now.
the layout, the curriculum, also the media center at the high school, the improvements over the summer, it's completely transformed the space, so that looks fantastic.
The office at Southern Boulevard, that was probably my favorite of the whole day. I was like, well, it's just so much it's so much better. So I just think we need to make time to figure out how we can get people
I think
safely in
Mr.
the
Connors
building.
can do a piece on that.
Yeah.
Have one of his students do a...
That's my class.
Okay, very good. Does anybody else have any additional new board business that they want to cover? Before you bolt, do we have an executive session?
Super quick executive session, no action will be taken.
Okay, very good. So don't bolt, but you could stand for the meeting, it'll be quick. Stand, don't sit.
A student matter.
I think it'll be super quick. We say that all the time, and then we're here till 10:30. I know. So we have our second opportunity for public commentary. If anybody would like to address the board or the administration, if you would just head up to the mic, and if you could introduce yourself, that would be great.
Hi, Lisa Carey, Chatham Township. Just a quick question on the middle school. Everything is beautiful, and kudos to you guys. My seventh grader's just been saying they've been evacuating with fire drills, and the alarm doesn't go off, and the principal says we need to evacuate. This is a mandatory drill. So just a few times it's happened in the past.
Twice in the last
Yeah.
week.
So,
Last Tuesday and then again today.
and that the alarm doesn't go off,
Right.
but that's still being.
Mike?
There were two times that the building was evacuated, and in each instance, there was nothing that was happening within the building, but there was a report from outside of the building on the property line that one of the telephone poles and the wires was getting tangled up with the trees, and there was sparking and arcing out there. So it wasn't that there was any kind of, it wasn't that the smoke alarm and smoke detectors in the school failed, it was that the report was coming from outside of the building. And we evacuated, had the fire department come to check it all out, and then give us the green light to go back in.
Okay, great.
wanna
Thank you.
No, it's-
Thank you, Lisa.
And
Thank you.
actually, the issue is caused by one of the borough trees on the property line by where the borough DPW is. And the second day it happened, the borough just took the easy path and the tree has been removed, and PS&G has fixed the transformer that was hit by the falling branches. So it's all solved.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
There you go. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Heat.
Back one more time. Can anybody tell me approximately what healthcare expenditures are out of the budget?
9 million?
Well, it's about that, but the employees foot about 25% of that.
Okay.
25% of the 9 or 10 million. Are you 10 million now? 10 million. Is that what you're looking for, Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. Wait, Ms. Chambers? One more. Anybody else? I think that pretty much covers the room. You two have to get up and speak just because you have it.
Hi, I'm Mary Chambers, and I'm from the township. And just to let you all know, I am running for the Board of Education, and I am excited for the possibility to work with y'all. I did have two questions. One was on the vaping policy. I read it, and I was wondering if the act of going to and from school is considered part of their school grounds then, like, because it said any kind of school function event. Because I didn't know how you could police that. I think that
Are they on
we
the
have
bus or are they walking?
walking or parking off campus, or in that regard, like that. I didn't know if that was going to fall under your, or would you be working with the local authorities to kind of deal with that?
That does fall under our existing policy. Mike, do you want to cover that?
Yes, just to and from school, unless they're being transported on a school bus, is not within our jurisdiction.
Okay, so they walk across the street on Lafayette and they're done. We're done with it as from the school board point of view.
Correct.
Okay. I also had a question about the SHIF. I was reading that today, and I noticed that all the premiums go into a trust account, and I was wondering if you could just kind of explain that, how that's going to work, and like if it builds up, is it build up in, you know, where does the like I wasn't didn't clearly understand that piece.
Pete, you probably got to talk about it because there is a primary policy, a secondary policy, and then a tertiary policy, which is basically offsetting continuous risk down through. But there is, within the program right now, they do have a $52 million surplus?
No, 55.
$55 million surplus that is used in times of emergency. So if one of the districts within that plan is $5 million over, they do have a surplus fund to meet that. And then they do have two reinsurance pieces of it. So they have had historically better numbers in terms of not spending the premiums that they brought into, but they are doing what we believe is the intelligent things, which is putting it aside for a rainy day, and also continuing investment in reinsurance policies, just to give us a lot more comfort in terms of where we would go from an emergency perspective, whereas right now we don't pay for that. We would pay for that in higher premiums the next year.
Okay.
But we now have a surplus that we share, in essence, with all the other districts that are within this individual shift, that there is a lot of surplus to deal with emergency situations that we don't have right now.
Okay. And about how many boards are in that
It's
group?
mostly the south.
Yeah, I
We're
saw
one of
that.
the first groups up here in the north to do it, but they're looking to move north and expand this program. Listen, I think, my opinion is everybody is going to be moving towards these. when I started looking at the long-term numbers, and Pete and I have built 3 and 5 year models out, and all it is to do is to plug in emergency figures, like a 22% healthcare increase or a spike in energy costs, just to look how it impacts a district on an annual basis. So we went around to all the districts in the area and said, we'd like for you to come together with us and start growing our pooled resources, because all of you are going to be involved in this. We've had some extraordinary premium hikes over the last number of years. We've actually outpaced our local districts. So of course you would imagine that most districts don't want to join someone that has got a 13% if they have a 4%. My viewpoint is your day is coming when you're going to have these increases. So unless we can grow our purchasing power by bringing a number of boards, whether it be a Morris County group together, that we were going to be dealing with just out of control healthcare costs for the foreseeable future. So this one it's mostly in the south. We're the first one in the north, but I'm pretty sure I would suspect that you'll see a significant growth in this.
There are 43 districts now, and they comprise 16 of the counties in New Jersey, and we would be the largest Morris County district to enter. We expect the number to be 47 by January 1st and a little over 50 by July 1st.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chambers. Excellent. Seeing no additional public commentary, because we pretty much covered everybody in the room.
Quick comment, Jill, for the
Yes, sir.
public record.
Yes, Al.
Matt's answer, I think, just gives the public a nice taste of the type of due diligence that the board and Peter and the administration are doing, looking 3 to 5 years out. I hope it gives them comfort that while this is not an easy problem to tackle, there are really good minds on it, and they're looking at all contingencies.
Great. Thank you. That was a pat on your back. And again, Matt is actively, to Mr. Heap's point, Matt is actively going out and finding other groups so that we can increase our buying power. So we're not sitting back and waiting for somebody to call us. We're reaching out and increasing our buying power. It's the only way we're going to get some traction on lowering these costs. So thank you again, Matt. I make a motion to close the public session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All good, Peter. Thank you, everybody. Please drive safely.